Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown, everybody. I'm Alex Carter, and we're diving deep into a fascinating topic today.
Yeah, I'm Olivia Reyes, and for this deep dive, we're exploring the world of government-funded UFO research.
With a single source,
Oh,
Skinwalker at the Pentagon,
yeah.
an insider's account of the government's secret UFO program.
This is episode 13, by the way.
Oh, that's right, episode 13.
This book is particularly interesting because it's written by the program managers,
Like the guys who actually ran it?
Yeah, James T. Lukatsky and Colmy Kelleher, along with George Knapp.
So we're really getting like a real insider's perspective.
Absolutely. And what they reveal is this story of AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. It was a secret $22 million program funded by the DIA to investigate UFOs.
Okay.
Ran from 2008 to 2010.
And what I think is really interesting is that the book points out how AATIP was distinct from the more, well-known AATIP program.
Right. Like it had a broader scope.
Yeah.
Going beyond just analyzing military encounters.
So they were really trying to get into like the physics of UFOs.
Yeah.
Potential threats, even paranormal aspects.
And that's where Skinwalker Ranch comes in.
Yeah.
This property in Utah, notorious for paranormal activity.
Yeah.
And the book makes it clear that it played like a key role in OSAP's
beginnings.
Yeah, Genesis.
The events at Skinwalker Ranch that are described in the book are definitely strange.
Oh, yeah.
Even Lukatsky, seasoned rocket scientist, had an experience that shook his skepticism.
What was it?
He witnessed a black rectangular object moving in ways that our current technology can't,
We can't do it.
replicate.
And that's what makes his account so compelling, right?
Right.
Because it wasn't just some blurry light in the sky.
Exactly.
It was like a clear daytime sighting of something that defies like known physics.
Right. And it wasn't just like isolated incidents either.
Right.
The book recounts numerous other strange events at the ranch, further solidifying its significance to AATIP's investigations.
Like what?
For instance, Jonathan Axelrod, a contractor, had some eerie experiences there along with his family.
Oh, wow.
This is where we start to see a pattern emerge.
Okay.
The book delves into this concept of an infectious agent model,
Okay.
suggesting that something at Skinwalker Ranch might, latch on to individuals,
Oh, like follow them home?
follow them home, and cause paranormal activity to escalate in their lives.
Wow. So they're saying the Axelrod.
They use the Axelrods as a prime example.
But there are others?
There are others too, yeah.
Like
Juliet Witt, after visiting the ranch and taking some sage and heather as souvenirs, experienced terrifying poltergeist activity in her own home.
So they're saying whatever is at Skinwalker Ranch doesn't always stay confined to that location.
Yeah. And the book even mentions that Robert Bigelow, the aerospace entrepreneur who owned the ranch at the time,
Oh, wow.
had his own unsettling encounters.
Gosh, it really makes you wonder about the nature of the phenomena at play there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of unexplained phenomena,
Yeah.
the book highlights one of OSAP's most significant investigations, the USS Nimitz Tic Tac incident.
From 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the one where Commander David Fravor
Right?
and another pilot had a close encounter with a tic-tac-shaped object
Uh-huh.
that outmaneuvered their F-A-18s
Like it was nothing.
in ways that seemed impossible.
Like impossible.
Yeah.
And what's remarkable is that OSAP concluded, 12 years before the Pentagon's UAP task force report, that the Tic Tac was not technology from the U.S., China, or Russia.
Wow.
They had already ruled that out.
That's a pretty bold statement.
I know.
Considering, the evidence.
All the evidence.
They had radar data, pilot testimonies, and detailed analyses.
It's crazy. And this brings us to another key point.
Yeah.
The book really emphasizes the innovative methodologies that were used by OSAP.
Yeah.
They were going beyond traditional UFO research,
Right.
by utilizing protocols like the Valley Source Visit Probability.
And a Valley Index of Credibility methodology.
To really assess the reliability of reports.
Exactly.
They even used sophisticated simulation software,
Like what?
like ANSYS Workbench.
Oh, wow.
To try to model the Tic Tac's movements.
Really?
Yeah.
To try and understand how anything could possibly maneuver like that.
Exactly.
It's fascinating that ANSYS Workbench is a program that's typically used for, engineering simulations.
Wow.
Not analyzing, unidentified aerial phenomena.
It really shows how OSAP was thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Trying to apply tools from different fields to make sense of what they were seeing.
And this dedication to, rigorous analysis really ties into the book's argument for a broader research scope when studying UAPs.
Yeah.
Like, they're proposing that you can't just focus on the physical evidence, right? Like the sensor data.
Right.
You have to consider, like, the human effects as well.
The psychological, potentially even paranormal aspect. The book actually lays out what it calls the 6 layers of the UFO phenomenon to make this point.
Okay.
They're arguing that investigating the full spectrum of effects on human witnesses and like the possible consciousness connection, it's vital.
It's a really thought-provoking argument because it really challenges the traditional scientific approach.
I know.
Of just relying on physical data.
Right. They're advocating for like a more holistic view of the phenomenon. Right?
Yes.
Acknowledging that there might be elements we don't fully understand yet.
Absolutely. And the book really pushes back against the limitations of relying only on, like you said, sensor data.
Right.
They argue that to understand the full picture,
yeah,
you really have to delve into the psychological and potentially paranormal aspects of these encounters.
Even exploring things like remote viewing, which is crazy.
Now, let's talk about the political side of things for a second.
Okay.
The book recounts how in 2009, Senator Harry Reid, a key supporter of AATIP, tried to get it classified as a special access program within the Department of Defense.
Oh, okay.
And his argument was that this research was just crucial for national security.
Of course.
Especially if we were dealing with technology that was far more advanced than anything we currently possess.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, right? But the book reveals that the DoD wasn't exactly eager to embrace this idea.
Really?
They were hesitant to, formally recognize the program.
Why?
Potentially fearing public scrutiny or who knows what.
It's interesting how bureaucratic hurdles can sometimes hinder even like the most critical research.
Yes.
Especially when dealing with topics as sensitive as UFOs.
So AATIP ended up in this kind of like limbo.
Oh, no.
Continuing its work, but without the protection and resources that a special access program would have offered.
It's a shame.
It is a shame because the book makes it clear that they were uncovering some pretty groundbreaking information.
Yeah, like where did all that data go? The reports, the analyses?
That's a question that the book, unfortunately, leaves unanswered. But it definitely raises some intriguing possibilities, right?
Totally.
I mean, was it all buried in some government archive? Is it shared with other agencies?
Or is there still some classified program operating in the shadows?
Building upon the foundation laid by AATIP.
Right.
We don't know.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of key players,
yeah,
the book really highlights the role of Robert Bigelow.
Oh, yeah.
A figure who's portrayed as like instrumental in the story of AATIP.
Okay.
This guy is a billionaire, an aerospace entrepreneur.
Wow.
With a long-standing fascination with UFOs.
Okay.
In fact, he poured millions of his own dollars into research
Really?
through his organization, the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS.
NIDS.
Was founded back in 1995.
Okay.
With this mission to study both UFOs and consciousness.
Interesting.
2 subjects that often intertwine in this field.
They do.
And they assembled this team of like top-notch scientists, researchers, even former intelligence officials to investigate UFO sightings and gather data.
And what's really intriguing is that Senator Reid actually attended a NIDS board meeting back in 1996.
Yeah.
And that's where he really became captivated by the UFO topic.
He was really impressed by the caliber of people involved and the seriousness of their research.
Right.
So you can see how all the pieces kind of start to connect here, right?
Yeah.
Bigelow's passion and resources fuel NIDs. Reid becomes this champion for government funding after witnessing the quality of their work.
Right.
And this ultimately leads to the creation of AATIP.
And Bigelow's company, Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, or BASS, was awarded the contract for AATIP.
So it really was like a confluence of personalities and events that propelled UFO research into this like new era.
It's amazing how these things come together.
Right. Now, the book really emphasizes the impact of Lekatsky's 2007 visit to Skinwalker Ranch. It was this pivotal moment for him, It really ignited a fire to push for a formal program to study UFOs.
Okay.
Remember, Lekatsky was a rocket scientist working for the DIA, and he was granted permission by Bigelow to visit Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay.
Intrigued by all these stories of unexplained phenomena.
And what he witnessed there completely changed his perspective.
The book describes how within minutes of arriving, he saw something that defied his understanding of physics.
Wow.
Something so advanced that it made his work on, ballistic missiles seem like child's play.
It really shook him to the core, huh?
Yeah, it was like an epiphany.
Yeah.
That experience at Skinwalker Ranch completely convinced Lakatsky that the government needed to take this seriously. So he teamed up with Bigelow and Reid.
Right.
And they started laying the groundwork for what would become AATIP.
Their timing was perfect, too, because public fascination with UFOs was growing.
Right.
Yeah. And there was this increasing sense that, the government was holding back information.
Right, like they knew something they weren't telling us.
Exactly.
AATIP kind of offered a chance to bring some transparency to this secretive world.
And the book provides some fascinating details about how AATIP was structured.
Yeah.
We learn about the specific areas they were investigating, the types of data they were collecting, the challenges they faced.
Right.
It's a treasure trove of information for anyone who's interested in, the inner workings of this groundbreaking program.
One of their primary focuses, as the book explains, was analyzing the potential threat posed by UFOs.
Right.
So they weren't just interested in identifying the objects, right, but in understanding if they presented any danger to national security.
Which makes perfect sense, right?
It does.
I mean, if we're dealing with technology that outstrips our own by a significant margin, we need to know what we're up against.
We need to know what we're dealing with.
Exactly.
And they didn't just rely on traditional methods like, interviewing witnesses and studying radar data.
Right.
They employed cutting-edge technology and some pretty unconventional approaches.
Like what?
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The book mentions that they even brought in remote viewers.
Ooh.
Individuals with, alleged psychic abilities.
Really?
To try and gather information about UFOs.
It's like they were willing to explore every possible avenue, right?
Yeah.
Even those that might be considered outside the realm of mainstream science.
It shows just how committed they were to understanding this phenomenon.
Yeah.
No matter how unconventional the methods.
Absolutely.
They recognize that traditional science might not have all the answers when it comes to something as strange and elusive as UFOs.
Right. And they were open to exploring new possibilities, new ways of thinking.
They were true pioneers in this field.
And it's fascinating to consider how their findings might have reshaped our understanding of physics, technology.
Even our place in the universe.
Oh, I know, right?
Had they been given the opportunity to continue their work.
Unimpeded.
Yeah. By, whatever forces were at play that ultimately led to their demise.
And the book doesn't shy away from the, the more controversial aspects of AATIP's research.
Right, like what?
Well, for example, they investigated, the potential biological effects of UFO encounters.
Yeah, they were looking into everything, right?
Yeah.
From physical injuries to psychological trauma.
Yeah, they were particularly interested in those cases, where people reported feeling sick.
Or experiencing, strange symptoms after a UFO sighting.
Right. And they didn't just dismiss those reports as, psychosomatic or anything. They took them seriously.
They were really trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, they were collecting medical data, analyzing blood samples, looking for patterns.
The book even details the case of Chris Jones.
Oh, yeah, Chris Jones.
Who had a terrifying encounter with a massive triangular craft back in 2009.
What happened?
The book describes how he was driving home one night when he saw this huge black triangle with bright lights just hovering over the road.
Over the road?
Yeah.
Wow.
So low, he felt he could almost reach out and touch it.
Oh, my gosh.
And after that encounter, he started experiencing some pretty disturbing health issues.
Like what?
He developed lumps all over his body.
Oh, no.
And was eventually diagnosed with lymphoma.
Oh, wow, that's awful.
Now, the book doesn't definitively say that the UFO caused his cancer.
Right.
But it raises some serious questions about the potential effects these encounters can have on human health.
Totally. And it's not just Jones, right?
No.
The book is full of accounts of people who report, health problems after UFO encounters.
We already talked about Ron Becker and the blue orb.
Yeah, Ron Becker.
But there are others who describe headaches, nausea, even immune system disorders.
It's a chilling thought, right?
It is.
It begs the question, are these objects intentionally harming people?
Or are these just side effects of some unknown technology that they possess?
Yeah.
The book doesn't offer definitive answers, but it definitely lays out the evidence and challenges us to grapple with the implications.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that, AATIP wasn't just sitting back and collecting anecdotes. They were actively investigating these cases.
Right, trying to understand the mechanisms at play.
They were at the forefront of this type of research.
Absolutely, and their approach was so thorough.
I know.
The book details how they set up this elaborate surveillance system at Skinwalker Ranch.
What was it like?
With cameras, sensors, all sorts of high-tech equipment.
Wow.
All in an effort to document UFO activity.
They were determined to gather hard evidence.
Hard evidence.
Not just rely on eyewitness accounts.
And they weren't limiting themselves to just Skinwalker Ranch either.
Right.
The book talks about how they reached out to people who claimed to have recovered fragments of UFOs.
Oh, wow.
Or materials from alleged crash sites.
Like Roswell.
Like Roswell, yeah.
Trying to, reverse engineer some of the technology.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
The book even mentions a case involving small red spheres that were supposedly recovered from 2 UFO landing sites in the Soviet Union.
Really?
They analyzed those spheres. But the book says the results were inconclusive. Which I guess isn't surprising.
Right.
Considering we're dealing with phenomena that are so fleeting and difficult to document.
Yeah.
And the technology involved is likely far beyond our current understanding.
It highlights the immense challenge of this type of research.
Yeah, even when you do get your hands on physical evidence,
right,
it's not always easy to, decipher what you're looking at.
I know.
But that didn't stop OSAP.
Uh-huh.
They were making progress.
In what way?
I mean, they were building this massive database of UFO sightings, reports, analyses.
And they were starting to identify patterns and trends that could help us understand this phenomenon.
Like they were approaching this like a giant puzzle, piecing together bits of information from all over the world.
That's so cool.
One of the key takeaways from the book is that OSAP really championed this multidisciplinary approach to UFO research.
Okay.
They recognized that this wasn't just a matter for, physicists and engineers.
Right.
They brought in psychologists, anthropologists, biologists, experts from a wide range of fields.
Because they understood that UFOs could have implications for our understanding of physics.
Consciousness? Even the nature of reality itself?
It's a much bigger picture than just identifying lights in the sky.
Absolutely.
And they were also advocating for more transparency and collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Urging government agencies and the scientific community to work together to, unravel this mystery.
Which makes it all the more frustrating that OSAP was eventually shut down.
I hate that.
They were doing truly groundbreaking work.
Yeah.
But it seems like the powers that be weren't ready to fully embrace their findings.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
It makes you wonder what kind of pressure they were facing. Were there forces within the government that wanted to keep this information under wraps?
Maybe.
Was it simply a matter of, bureaucratic inertia?
It could be.
The book, unfortunately, leaves us to ponder these questions.
Oh, so frustrating.
One thing's for sure.
What?
The book leaves no doubt that OSAP was onto something big. They were asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Employing rigorous methods, uncovering some truly mind-blowing information.
I mean, their work deserves to be recognized.
And studied further.
Absolutely.
And one of the more intriguing aspects of OSAP's research that the book really highlights is their investigation into the potential biological effects of UFO encounters.
Right, like we were talking about.
They were looking at everything from physical injuries to psychological trauma.
Right, and they were even looking into what they called psychical effects, things like telepathy, precognition, suggesting a connection between UFOs and human consciousness.
It's like they were acknowledging that there might be dimensions to this phenomenon that we just don't fully understand.
Yeah, that go beyond our current scientific models.
The book describes this case where a group of people at a party in West Virginia witnessed this spectacular UFO display.
Okay.
And the next day, they were visited by these men in black.
No way.
Who warned them not to talk about what they had seen.
Oh my God.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, right?
Totally.
But the book presents it as a factual account.
Wow.
Based on interviews with the witnesses.
And it's not just men in black either, right?
No, there are stories about people being followed, harassed, even threatened.
Really?
After reporting UFO sightings.
That's scary.
It's enough to make you wonder who's really in control here.
I know, right?
Are we dealing with a phenomenon that's just, beyond human comprehension?
Or are there powerful forces at work trying to manipulate our perception of reality?
Those are some big questions.
I know.
And while OSAP might not have had all the answers, they were certainly asking the right ones.
Right.
They were pioneers in the field of UFO research. And their work deserves to be studied and understood.
Absolutely.
One of their key research projects, and something the book goes into detail about, was their work at Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
They dedicated a lot of time and resources to investigating the strange phenomena reported at that location.
Right. They set up sophisticated surveillance systems, conducted experiments, even brought in those remote viewers we talked about earlier.
They collected a lot of data on the health effects of being at the ranch, particularly those cases where people reported feeling sick or experiencing, strange symptoms.
Like, they were trying to determine if there was something specific to the ranch itself that was causing these effects, whether it was, some unknown energy or radiation or even a biological agent.
The book describes one case involving a family in California, the Scarsdales.
Oh, the Scarsdales, yeah.
After one of their sons visited Skinwalker Ranch, they started experiencing a whole series of bizarre events: blue lights, clicking noises. They even captured footage of a small humanoid figure on their property.
Whoa, really?
And they also reported problems with their electronic devices, like, batteries draining rapidly and cameras malfunctioning.
It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
It does.
Oh my gosh.
But the book presents this as a legitimate case, something AATIP took seriously.
Really?
They investigated the Scarsdales' claims thoroughly, collected soil samples, analyzed the video footage, interviewed the family.
And?
Their conclusion was that there was enough evidence to warrant further investigation.
Wow.
They believed something unusual was happening at the ranch, and they were determined to figure it out.
Wow, it's fascinating how a place like Skinwalker Ranch can become this, focal point for so much unexplained activity.
Yeah, it's like a magnet for the paranormal.
Right.
And AATIP wasn't just focused on Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
The book highlights their efforts to analyze UFO sightings from all around the world.
So they were looking for, patterns, trends, any evidence that could help them decipher the nature of this phenomenon.
They were particularly interested in cases involving multiple witnesses, radar data, or physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
They were building this massive database.
Yeah.
And they were using sophisticated software to analyze the data.
Like what kind of software?
Well, the book doesn't get too specific, but it does talk about how they were looking for anything that could give them clues about, the origins, capabilities, and intentions of these objects.
Right.
And they didn't limit themselves to modern sightings either.
Really?
They delved into historical cases like the Roswell incident.
Oh, wow.
And the 1975 UFO incursions into northern tier Air Force bases.
It's like they were trying to piece together a historical timeline of UFO activity,
Yeah.
to see if there were any connections, any recurring patterns that might shed light on the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible.
They were incredibly thorough in their approach.
And they didn't just limit themselves to, eyewitness accounts and physical evidence.
Right.
The book talks about their research into, advanced propulsion systems.
Right, trying to understand how UFOs are able to fly at such incredible speeds and perform impossible maneuvers.
How does that even work?
Right, they were looking into things like anti-gravity, warp drives.
Whoa.
Even the possibility of UFOs using some kind of unknown energy source.
So they were exploring concepts that are usually relegated to science fiction.
They were open to any and all possibilities, and the book even mentions a report that AATIP produced on space-time metric engineering.
Space-time metric engineering, what is that?
It deals with the idea of, manipulating the fabric of space-time to create shortcuts for travel.
So wormholes.
Yeah, like wormholes.
That's mind-bogglingly complex.
It is.
But AATIP was taking it seriously.
Yeah, they were pushing the boundaries of what we consider scientifically possible.
Right, and what sets them apart from many other UFO research programs is that they also emphasize the human element of this phenomenon.
Right, they weren't just focused on the nuts and bolts of the technology.
Yeah.
They wanted to understand the impact of these encounters on people.
They recognize that UFO sightings can be profoundly disturbing experiences.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted to study the psychological, emotional, even spiritual effects of these encounters.
They were particularly fascinated by cases where people reported feeling a sense of awe, wonder, even religious ecstasy after seeing a UFO.
Really?
And they explored the possibility of, UFOs influencing human consciousness.
Wow.
Or communicating telepathically.
That's wild.
The book describes a case involving a young boy named Paul who claimed to have been visited by these, blue and red orbs in his bedroom.
Blue and red orbs?
Yeah.
What happened?
He said the orbs touched him, caused him pain.
Oh, no.
And he reported seeing shadowy figures screaming in his head.
That's terrifying.
It's a chilling account, and AATIP investigated it carefully. They concluded that the boy's experiences were genuine, that he had had some kind of paranormal encounter.
Wow.
And they were trying to understand what it all meant.
That's incredible.
They weren't dismissing these cases as, fantasy or delusion.
Right.
They were taking them seriously, trying to find explanations.
And they were also interested in the possibility of, UFOs leaving behind physical traces or evidence.
Right. Things like radiation, electromagnetic fields, strange materials.
So they conducted experiments.
At Skinwalker Ranch, another location.
Okay.
Trying to detect any anomalies that could be linked to UFO activity.
Right.
They collected soil and plant samples, looking for evidence of unusual isotopes or chemicals.
They were leaving no stone unturned.
In their quest for answers.
It was an incredibly comprehensive approach.
It was.
And they were willing to use any means necessary to gather information about UFOs.
But sadly, as we've discussed, their work was cut short.
I know.
AATIP was shut down in 2010. And their findings were largely ignored by the mainstream scientific community.
That's so frustrating.
It's a tragedy, because they were on the verge of making some major breakthroughs.
And the book makes a compelling case that AATIP deserves to be recognized as one of the most important UFO research programs in history.
It really does.
And their work continues to inspire researchers and investigators to this day.
It's almost hard to believe that a program like AATIP, as groundbreaking as it was shut down.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider, the sheer volume of data they collected.
Right. It's crazy.
The book mentions that they generated hundreds of reports, analyses, investigations, all meticulously documented.
That makes you wonder where it all went.
Right. Where did it all go?
I know. The book doesn't give a definitive answer to that question.
Which is so frustrating.
Which is both frustrating and intriguing.
It's like this giant question mark hanging over the whole story.
It is.
Was it all buried in some government archive, never to see the light of day?
Right. Or was it shared with other agencies?
Maybe, feeding into some top-secret program we don't even know about.
Right.
You can't help but speculate about what happened to all that valuable research.
Yeah.
All those insights into the UFO phenomenon that AATIP had painstakingly gathered.
I don't know. It's crazy.
And raises the question, is there still some classified program operating somewhere?
Yeah.
Building upon the foundation that AATIP laid?
That's what I want to know.
Are they continuing this work in the shadows, delving deeper into the mysteries that AATIP only began to uncover?
Right.
We just don't know.
But even if AATIP's work is locked away somewhere, their legacy lives on.
It does.
They changed the way we think about UFOs.
Absolutely. They brought a level of scientific rigor to the field.
Yeah.
That had been lacking before.
They showed that UFOs could be studied scientifically.
Right.
This isn't just a fringe topic for conspiracy theorists.
Right. It's real science.
They pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in the mainstream scientific community.
And that's something we should celebrate.
For sure.
One of the most significant achievements, as the book highlights, was the creation of this massive database of UFO sightings and reports.
Yeah, they were gathering information from all corners of the globe.
Right, not just focused on the U.S.
They had teams investigating cases in Brazil.
Brazil? Wow.
They were even looking into reports from the Soviet Union.
So they really understood that this was a global phenomenon?
A global phenomenon.
Something that transcended national borders.
And they weren't just collecting stories. They were using sophisticated methods to analyze the data. The book talks about how they employed protocols that were developed by Dr. Jacques Vallée.
Oh, wow. Dr. Vallée.
Yeah, a renowned UFO researcher.
To assess the credibility of reports and identify patterns and trends.
They were really trying to move beyond anecdotal evidence.
Hard evidence.
And get to the heart of what was really going on.
They were like detectives, right?
Yeah.
Piecing together this complex puzzle one sighting at a time.
Yeah.
Meticulously documenting everything.
Dates, times, locations, witness testimonies, radar data.
All of it.
You name it. They were building a case file for the existence of UFOs.
And what's truly remarkable, and we've touched on this, is that they didn't stop at the physical evidence.
Right.
They were also investigating the psychological and physiological effects of UFO encounters.
Yeah, they interviewed witnesses, collected medical data.
Trying to understand the profound impact these experiences had on people.
Remember the case of Ron Becker?
The man who had that blue orb pass through him.
Yeah, AATIP didn't dismiss his experience or his subsequent health problems.
They took it seriously.
They analyzed his blood samples, looked for any abnormalities.
Trying to determine if there was a connection between his encounter and his health issues.
Yeah, their approach was groundbreaking.
Really was.
They recognized that UFOs could have a profound impact on human beings, not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally as well.
Right.
They were ahead of their time in that regard.
And the book makes it clear that they weren't just content with collecting data.
Right.
They were trying to figure out what it all meant.
Yeah, like what are the implications of all this?
They were exploring the potential implications of UFOs for our understanding of physics, consciousness, even the very nature of reality itself.
The big questions.
The big questions, right? Where do these objects come from? What are they capable of?
And what do they want?
What do they want?
They were trying to crack the code of the UFO phenomenon.
Right.
Find the key that would unlock all the secrets.
And while they might not have found all the answers, they certainly laid the groundwork for future research.
Yeah, it did. They demonstrated that UFOs could be studied scientifically, and they challenged the scientific community to take the subject seriously.
Let's not forget their research into remote viewing.
Oh, yeah, remote viewing.
A controversial topic, but one that AATIP approached with an open mind.
Yeah, they had a team of trained remote viewers
who attempted to gather information about UFOs and their activities.
And they even used remote viewing to try and locate potential crash sites or recovered materials.
That's a bold move.
It is. It shows how far outside the box they were willing to think.
The book claims that some of those remote viewing sessions yielded some pretty intriguing results.
Really?
Yeah, providing information about, UFO propulsion systems, their origins.
And even the intentions of the beings who might be piloting them.
It's almost like they were getting glimpses into a reality that most people can't even comprehend.
I know, it's crazy.
It's fascinating to consider the possibilities, but it also raises the question.
Yeah.
If they were uncovering such sensitive information, was that a factor in AATIP being shut down?
Right.
Was there pressure from forces who didn't want this information to become public?
The book doesn't explicitly say,
No.
but it's certainly something to think about.
It is, and it all circles back to that big unanswered question.
What happened to all the data AATIP collected?
Is it locked away somewhere, gathering dust in a government archive? Or is it being used to further some clandestine agenda we're not privy to?
Right.
These are questions that may never be fully answered, but one thing is for certain.
What's that?
AATIP was a pivotal moment in the history of UFO research.
It was.
They changed the game, and their legacy continues to inspire researchers and investigators to this day.
Absolutely. They showed us that the UFO phenomenon is real.
It's worthy of serious scientific study.
Yeah.
And it has profound implications for humanity.
They opened up a Pandora's box of questions that we're still grappling with today.
And that's perhaps the greatest takeaway from Skinwalker at the Pentagon. It's a call to action.
A challenge to keep searching for answers.
To keep pushing the boundaries of our understanding.
And to never stop questioning the nature of reality itself.
Well said. Skinwalker at the Pentagon is a must-read for anyone interested in the UFO phenomena.
It really is.
It's a fascinating glimpse into this secret world. And it leaves you pondering some of the biggest questions about our place in the universe.
Totally.
So there you have it, folks.
Wow.
A deep dive into Skinwalker at the Pentagon.
A book that challenges us to expand our thinking and consider the true scope of what might be out there.
We hope you enjoyed this exploration, and as always, keep looking up.
And stay curious.
Until next time.
Bye.